Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and finish up our discussion of this spectrum all the way from traditional classroom all the way up to the full digital classroom. Now, the last step of this puzzle is to go all the way from this strong blended all the way up to the full online classroom. Now, to be fair, I don't love this full online classroom. The challenge is, the biggest problem up here is the thing that the traditional classroom is so great at. That relationship component that we've really strung all the way through the spectrum, but to be fair, is the hardest thing to both establish and perpetuate in the full online classroom. So here's what we have to do. We just have to work a little harder at it. How do we keep that relationship component from down here all the way to up here? The biggest thing, communication. One of the things that we really need to make sure that we're doing is that we're including not just parents and students, but all of our other team members within the school and administration in the process. Whether it's a district that has a unified framework, such as Google Classroom, or a unified framework such as an online Canvas learning management system, whatever that consistency is, that first must be communicated to parents. The second thing that we have to do is we have to personally, as teachers, work even harder to communicate with students and parents. That means email. Okay, well, we've done that for a long time. But now we have to add in maybe video conferencing, whether it's Zoom, Google Meets, Google Hangouts, Skype, or something else. Now we have to find a way to include that face-to-face component with the student, even if that face-to-face component is actually computer screen to computer screen. Now, it is a little bit challenging, but it's not that bad. The reality is, in the situation in which we may find ourselves, whether it may be societal changes or whether it may be health issues in the society at large that force us into an online system, either way, we're responsible as teachers for developing that relationship, communicating with all the stakeholders, and making sure that digital classroom, that full online digital classroom, still reflects all of the positives that we can bring from the traditional classroom, including all of the digital and technology keys that we've added between blended flipped to that strong blended, and bring all of it to bear in the online classroom. Now remember, just because it's all online does not make it good or bad, just like the traditional classroom was not all good or all bad. It's just different. One of the things that I have found from a full online classroom is there is a little bit more frustration initially among students, parents, etc., to getting used to the system. But once you can get past that first getting used to the system, that frustration drops to a normal level like everything else. And a lot of that is entirely dependent on how much the teacher has prepared. So let's go back to where we started this whole discussion with a gift. So goals, information, framework, and tools. Well, goals, where do I need to be on this spectrum? Do I need to be here? Do I need to be here, or do I need to be here? And once we know where we need to be, we can take where we're at and turn it up or turn it down to get where we need to be. So that's our goal. The other thing that we need to remember is, in a full online environment, there might be daily or weekly goals that need adjusted. To be fair, you're not going to be as efficient in the full online environment as you can be in the strong blended, or as you can in the blended flip, or even in the tech in the classroom. But just be careful. I said you can't be as efficient, which means you may not get through as much material. That's okay. You can still do it well. In the same way that traditional classroom has a lot of efficiencies that can be added by adding the digital component. like a lot of things in life, both ends of the spectrum leave a little bit to be desired, which is why it's a spectrum. But if we have to be down here, we can do it well. So you got to figure out, where am I at? Where's my goal to be there? Do I need to get my expectations adjusted to fit wherever I am on this spectrum, and the goals clearly communicated to students? Now, the information, we've already talked about that. Information can be either brought from the classroom online, created online, used online, but all of it can be easily enough put in that online environment. As far as framework goes, the district that you're in may determine that framework for you. Google Classroom, Learning Management System. Or for me, my framework is always a simple slide deck with all of the links as part of pictures, so a student has everything they need, a parent has everything they need in one link. So that framework works for me, but you may have to adjust the framework based on the age of student that you work with, based on the type of access your students have, whether you're in an urban area, a rural area, a high socioeconomic, a lower socioeconomic. Those are all discussions and decisions that need to be made locally. But getting that framework in place so that all students, all teachers, all parents know where to find information, how to get communication, and how to make sure that we're keeping that relationship as strong as possible. Finally, let's go to tools. Now, what kind of tools do we need for this full online classroom? Well, we already talked about a framework, and we'll talk about that more. But additionally, you're also going to need ways to take those things that are paper and move them digital. That's easy. You already have your cell phone. You may have a document camera. You may have a camera on the laptop or Chromebook. That's easy to do. So moving paper onto the online environment, no big deal. Additionally, getting paper back from the students, also not a huge deal. Between email, Google Drives, or other posting forums that are usually built into a learning management system, getting information back, no big deal. So that's pretty good stuff there. But now let's talk about instruction. How do I provide instruction in this full online environment? Well, I could do one of a couple things. I could either curate or create. Now, curate means I'm going to take something that's already made by someone else, and I'm going to use it for my purposes. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to take all of it whole hog and just throw it at a student, a la Khan Academy. So many misuses of Khan Academy because teachers either don't go through and verify, modify, or make sure that whatever they're using from Khan is the best use of their students' time. There's some great stuff in Khan. There's some great stuff in your textbooks. But if you think that the best idea is just, well, the textbook has it, I'll just use that. Folks, I really want to encourage you against that. Because if you, as the teacher who knows that student, who knows that kid, who knows that community, is not editing or verifying or making sure that what you're giving those students that the publishers put together to fit everyone's needs fits your students, then we're not really doing our job as teachers. So I really caution against just throwing an entire canned curriculum at students. Big caution there. But there are some great things that are already created by other people that you can choose, curate, thin down, and make sure you put in the correct context for your students. On the other hand, you can be the creator. Now you say, whoa, I don't know how to create all this stuff. First of all, don't try to create everything. Remember, there's some great stuff here that is pre-made, whether it's already on YouTube, whether it's already on Khan Academy, whether it's already on a textbook series that your school district has purchased. There's some great stuff that exists. Use the best, create to complement. The other big advantage with creation is you are their teacher. They want to see you. The relationship needs to be built with you. You can do it. There's a couple simple tools like screencasting, webcasting, simple typing and writing, or whether it is recording meetings that we can do to create content that fits your students as your students need it. But we'll get into those things as we get there. So whether it's curate or create, we can get that information and those tools put in. Beyond that, other tools that you may use are really just anything you can come up with. Anything from Microsoft Office materials to Google materials, slides, docs, drawings, sites, whether you want to use Animotos, whether you want to use Powtoons, whether you want to use Paradex, or you want to use Flipgrids, or you want to use Edpuzzles, or you want to use Screencastify, whether you want to use Screencast-O-Matic, whether you want to, all this stuff is available for you to use. Don't try to use it all. We'll get to tools, but the first thing you need to understand about tools is you need to pick a handful that you're comfortable with, that you know how to use, because remember, every tool you put in the toolbox, the student and the parent, because it's a team, needs to be trained and communicated with to use those tools. So understand that no one is asking you to use all the tools available. What we're asking is pick a couple that really fit your students, that really fit your environment, that really fit the age group that you work with, that really fit your students. Because those are the ones that are going to be the most effective. As a general rule, is there going to be some sort of word processor in here? Yes. As a general rule, is there going to be some sort of screencast in here? Yeah, probably. Is there going to be some sort of email or communication program in here? Absolutely. Okay? But really, with just those few things, you can probably do 90% of this spectrum and move it online. And then your best bet is to work with your colleagues, work with your administrators, work with your teammates to figure out what's going to be the best thing for my last 10%. And work toward that. Because folks, here's the reality. You're not going from here to here in a day. You're not going from here to here in a minute, in spite of what may be required of us as teachers. Take a minute, take your expectations, set them correctly for you, just like we expect you to set them correctly for teachers. Because nobody is expecting you to be digital awesome on day one. Many of us have already learned a great deal and moved so much further forward than we've already been in the past. That doesn't mean we don't have more room to grow, but it also means we're going to put in the time, we're going to approach it with some goals, some information, a framework, and some tools to make sure that whatever we do is the best for kids.